Aloha, and welcome to the Seniors Law Corner, a joint production of the law offices of James Michael Ratcliffe, that's yours truly, and the Seniors Law Program, which is a nonprofit corporation providing educational services and dealing with elder abuse right now. Today I want to talk a little bit about Social Security, specifically your Social Security number, which is pretty much now your universal ID. Our kids get it when we first claim them as dependents. We got it in the old days when we first got our job. But it's interesting sometimes to go back to the beginning of things. And the Social Security came about in 1935. And it was a controversial thing. All sorts of people were feeling that this was the beginning of socialism and the United States would fall with this, and this was an awful, awful thing, and there were loud voices heard, and some of the loudest voices were about the Social Security number. There was a big fear that that number was going to become a universal identifier. There were long issues, and you can go back and you pick it up on Wikipedia, you can go on the internet and take a look, actually pull up the congressional arguments and debates in the congressional record back in 1935, and you can see how terribly, terribly concerned people were that this number would be an identifier. And it was absolutely said, no worries, don't have any problem with this. It's never going to be that. It's only going to be used by the Social Security Department. No other person would ever have any access to that number. Well, we know how that turned out. The fact is that we're asked for it all the time. Now, the next thing that happened was 1974, and that was the Privacy Act. And this is a perfect example of government at work. In the Privacy Act, it says that what we're going to do is we're going to stop the Social Security number from being a universal identifier. And so we're going to prohibit the Social Security number from being any sort of universal identifier. So it says that in the first paragraph, and then it has exceptions. And the exceptions carve out basically everybody. Certainly every state entity and every federal entity has carte blanche to use the Social Security number however they want. And how they use it is as an identifier. If you file taxes in the United States, you're using the Social Security number 9 times out of 10. So we have this number that we're stuck with. That is a universal identifier that is used all the time by the bad guys to steal our stuff. Identity theft. You've heard it, identity theft. It's sort of a foreign concept to us. People being able to steal all our stuff without ever hitting us over the head or breaking into our house or breaking into our bank. They break into our identity, and we call it identity theft, and we've talked about that in other presentations on how the bad guys do it. But today we're going to talk about the Social Security as sort of the skeleton key into all those things that the bad guys break into. And we give our Social Security number out all the time. Now, we tell you not to, don't give it. On the other hand, you can't go anywhere without people asking for your Social Security number. And understand, because they ask doesn't mean they have a right to it. Just because people ask for your Social Security number doesn't mean they have a right to it. Now, let's start out with a sneaky thing. You guys have heard enough presentations about your Social Security number to know, gee, I don't want to give that out. And I have all sorts of seniors who are contacted by people dealing with their medical needs, and they ask for their Medicare number. The Medicare number, if you're receiving Social Security because you yourself worked, your Medicare number is going to be exactly the same as your Social Security number. And people never say, oh, don't give out your Medicare number. It's the same number. If you're getting Social Security because of a spouse, it would be the spouse's number, followed by an A or a B. So when people ask you for your Medicare number, if they're talking about something to do with a wheelchair or a medical issue, something of that nature, they're asking for your Social Security number. And once again, that's the skeleton key to get into absolutely every place that you keep your wealth. Your house, your bank, your savings, your securities, everything you have, that's skeleton key. Social Security number, same as your Medicare number. So guard those two numbers the same, because a lot of times they are the same. Okay. Who asks for your Social Security number and doesn't have a right to it and doesn't need it? Let's go through the things. Schools. Schools routinely ask for your Social Security number. They don't need it. They need to establish your residence in the area. You can establish that with a utility bill. You can establish that with evidence of ownership of real property and occupancy of that real property. They don't need the Social Security, but they routinely ask. And they ask not because they're bad guys. They ask because, gee, that's what they do. People just go and ask for the Social Security number. That's what they're supposed to do. When you're signing up for the Cub Scouts or Pop Warner, Social Security number routinely asked. They don't need it. There's no reason to deny you entrance because of the Social Security number. It's just something that they've been taught to ask. But the reality is that Social Security numbers are stolen every day. And most of the time they're not stolen by the guys that actually got them. They're stolen by somebody who gets a hold of the paperwork that was put together by the good guys who asked the question they didn't need to ask. The Pop Warner, the Cub Scouts, the Girl Scouts, the Brownies. These are folks that have records on you that don't need to have the Social Security number. Another example. The supermarket card, you know, the supermarket discount card that you get from Foodland or Safeway. They don't need your Social Security number. It's not a credit card. It's not asking for any financial information. It's a supermarket card. They don't need your Social Security number. And anytime anyone asks, it's okay to say, why? People ask all the time without any knowledge on why they're doing it. It's just on the form. That's the way the form is pointed out. Understand it's really, really dangerous. It is a universal identification number. It is a key to any of those other issues. Understand, these guys are not dumb criminals. Okay? This is not the age of the dumb thug who says, give me your wallet with a knife. Okay? These guys are sharp. They know the system. They know the system better than you. They know how to take that number and go to another file and put it together with your mother's maiden name. They know how to run programs to break your ID codes. And they simply do it easily, and they set it on automatic pilot, and they let their little machines do the walking. And the machines break in for them. It's a very scary thing. What can you do? Someone asks you for your Social Security number, 3-letter word. Why? Why do you need it? And if the only answer they can give is, well, the form requests it, then say, why do you need it? Will this form not be processed without it? And can I speak to your supervisor? Now, you run the risk of being, oh my God, that guy that does all the bad things and makes me jump through all the hoops and makes life miserable for everybody. That's true. And it's up to your own social skills how to do it in an appropriate way that doesn't brand you that. But you're also going to be the guy that Social Security number is missing from the pile of 400 papers that are stolen. And you're the guy that doesn't get his social or her Social Security number stolen and utilized and all of your stuff done. Now, this happens to everybody. Michelle Obama's Social Security number was posted on the internet not that long ago. These guys are good. They can find your stuff and do bad things to you. So, what do you remember from this part of the presentation? Number one, Social Security number appears in a couple of different places. Your Medicare card is your Social Security number. Guard that just like the Social Security number, because a lot of times it's the same number. So when someone's asking for your Medicare card, they're asking for something that cannot just deal with medical stuff. They're asking for the skeleton key that can get into all your other assets. They're asking for your Social Security card. So that red flag should go up when they ask for Medicare or Social Security. Same red flag, same number. Don't give it out. If someone asks for it, ask for an explanation. You have a right. You are opening up a very intimate part of you. You have a right to say, why do you need that? Why do you need the key to go into my backyard? Why do you need that? And if they don't have a good reason, then don't give it. And a lot of times they don't. And they're not all bad guys. They're not all bad people trying to steal your money. What they are people asking the question that's been asked for a long time that's on the form. A lot of times they don't realize. They have no reason at all why they need that number. They're asking for it. They're not the bad guy. But the bad guys know how to get into everybody else's stuff. And once they break through the door, once they're into the Cub Scouts, or once they're into the church logs, or once they're into... they get access, and they can do what they want to do with that number. And it's going to be bad stuff 9 times out of 10. So, Medicare card, Social Security number, ask. Why do you need it? If they don't need it, don't give it. And don't be afraid to go up a couple levels. I mean, speak to your supervisor, because the first guy's not going to know. That's a form. It's just a form. You're supposed to fill it out. You know, I can't process it without it. Let me speak to your supervisor. Nothing against you. I'm uncomfortable giving out my Social Security number. Let me speak to your supervisor. It's not a bad question to ask. It's all right. You're not a bad guy because you simply ask the question, why? Our next presentation, we're going to be talking about Social Security again, and we're going to be talking about how Social Security can provide a benefit for your child. And that your child includes a child that you've adopted. There's a lot of people on Kauai that have adopted their children, their children's children, and they're raising them as their own. If they're collecting Social Security, there's a serious benefit that they can collect on behalf of that child. It can make the difference a lot of times in food on the table and education. We're going to talk about that next time. For now, this is James Michael Ratcliffe. the law offices of James Michael Ratcliffe and the Seniors Law Program, bidding you aloha. Until next time, have a good one.